Charlie, who's in the building.
Oh, Yolanda, I'm so excited. You know, we've been dying to have these two come on the show.
Yes.
Killer Mike is here and his wife, Shay.
Yay.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming on Yes Girl. I want to read a little bit. I love Killer Mike's Twitter bio. He calls himself a Pan-Africanist, gangster, rapper, civic leader, and activist. Damn. Love it. That's a lot. That's a mouthful. And then he and Shay have a business in Atlanta, so we're going to talk about your entrepreneurship and being, you know, revolutionary Black love and business owners,
as we like to call them. Couplepreneurs.
It's the thing. It's the thing. But also, we're all watching Trigger Warning on Netflix right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tell us about like how it came about, how the show came about, and like the filming process and everything.
My friends who've known me since I was 5 tell my wife this has been your husband his whole life. You know what I mean? He questions inappropriately. He challenges authority. And he always says, "Why not?" So I've had the idea of why don't we legitimize Black gangsterism? You know, basically my whole life. You know, I grew up in the city of Atlanta, so my whole life I've only seen Black politicians, Black mayors, Black schools, teachers. So I've seen all the good and bad Blacks. So the numbers man was Black. You know, some people saw him as an outlaw, but the numbers man owned stores in our community, did good in our community. The bootlegger did the same. And I would even argue even up through the crack era. Like the reason I own a barbershop and went into legitimate business like real estate was because of one guy named Fat Steve, who grew up in Shawty Lowe's neighborhood in Boyne Homes Projects. I saw him take drug money and essentially build a legitimate empire out of it, you know, before he got arrested. So for me, you know, my thing about just being an entrepreneur in shops and all that was just like it was something that you were supposed to do or required to do. And I did everything every little Black boy does and ran the streets, did wrong, got in the Morehouse, did well. And with that said, I realized really early on I couldn't work for anyone. I was never going to be any good for a job. I wanted to be an entertainer, but that was not constant. So a businessman is something I've always wanted to be. And it just took finding the right person to partner with and my wife to help me understand what business really was and how to do it. So the best decision I made probably in my life was business decision, and personal was marrying her.
Yeah, I love it. And then Trigger Warning is that's just who you are. You just
that's who I am.
The cameras are just following you.
Y'all just seeing me. Like that's not even TV. That's me. That's me wondering like, well, why can't I go buy Godfather's pizza, but I can't buy Drug Kingpin sandwich? You know, Trigger Warning is why can I go see movies on Scarface, Al Capone, Whitey Bulger, but I don't see anything on Fat Steve or Bumpy Johnson or, you know. So my thing is with Black people, and I sit down, I mentioned the numbers man earlier, is because Black people have to learn to legitimize everything for profit. We're living in a capitalist system, and the people who are against you or the people who might even be with you, they're going to use every resource at their means to advance their cause. And so when Malcolm said by any means necessary to me, that meant Luther Campbell and the 2 Live Crew too. So, you know, my thing was, why aren't we using these things? So one experiment was I took a bunch of Crips out of Atlanta and started a soda endeavor together, you know, because soda,
it's a brand, right?
Yeah. They need merch.
They are, you know, sodas has killed far more Black people than Crips or Bloods. So you know, we never criticized Big Cola. So my thing was, let's sell Coke, the legal kind.
And it goes into building an empire, which is something you all are trying to do together with your business.
I don't know if we try to build empires, we just try to take care of each other, not work for white folk. A lot of people talk real ambitious, like I'm building an empire. No, I'm just trying to get $20 million and lead a country and hang out with my wife. And you know, what happens after that, I just know I love her and I don't want her to go on and work to anyone else. I don't want our children to have to look up to other people. So, you know, I just think there's an over-romanticization sometimes. If I'm building an empire, leaving like that's fine, but really at the end of the day, I'm trying to live like my grandparents lived. Trying to live below my means, trying to take care of my money, trying to value what my partner does. And we're just trying to live to get old and be comfortable. Yeah. We're both raised by grandparents. She's raised by a grandmother. I'm raised by my grandparents. And there's a certain humility that comes when you're raised by people that are born in the 1920s and the 1930s. The world is radically different. You know, I remember asking my grandmother, because my grandmother, their family was landowners. They were able to be educated. You know, they weren't rich, but land ownership is wealth in itself. Yeah. And, you know, my grandmother said, you know, they would get oranges and burlap sack underwear and stuff. And, you know, I just thought, man, that's the most horrible Christmas ever. Like, white Santa Claus hated us for real. And, you know, my grandfather looks over from across the room at me telling my grandma I wouldn't want that for Christmas. He said, I didn't get nothing. I was like, why? He's like, because I had 2 sisters, and I was the only boy. And that's when I started to understand that, you know, life we have is privilege. So, you know, you stay humble because, you know, where you come from. You know, we got sent to a farm in the summers to work. You know, her side of her father's family is from Hilton Head, South Carolina. Like, they own their land they live on. So it comes with a certain humility, you know. And we've done all the crazy wild stuff, you know. We've made money, spent money, things of that nature. But I think our grandparents grounded both of us in just being financially responsible.
There's an episode where you tell a little black boy, I'm
You can't
paraphrasing.
be president.
You can't be president.
Yeah.
Now, I need to understand why.
Right.
Why can't that little boy be
Because he's
president?
Canadian, he can be prime minister.
Oh, he's Canadian.
Yeah,
See, I
he
didn't
can't be
know.
president.
Okay, so
He
it didn't.
can't be president.
Okay, all right. Because I was
Yeah.
like, as soon as I see that mic, I'm gonna get. Why you tell a little black boy he
That's
can't
fine.
be president?
Yeah, he can't.
So
He
you
can
just
be
think
prime
it's
minister. Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger can't be president. He's an immigrant.
Okay,
you know?
okay. That explains
His
it.
his children could.
Yeah.
I told him that too.
Yeah.
It just didn't make the edit. I remember telling Miss Ely I wanted to be a rapper, and her saying, "Michael, you're too intelligent. You should be a pilot." So at 15, I still wasn't a rapper, but I got an opportunity to learn how to fly planes and aviation mechanics, so I took it. You know, I remember telling my art teacher I wanted to go Morehouse. I was more interested in more rapping and, you know, going to Morris Brown on the art scholarship. You know, so I had to prove to Mr. Murray, who I still communicate with to this day, like I had to prove I could do it. So, and essentially what I was doing was proving to myself was allowing it to be a challenge. So it's not my job to encourage you. It's not my job to make you feel like it's going to be okay. It can work because the world is tough. You know, so it's my job. You're in an unemployment office. You're here to, you know, to learn to get a job. It's not my job to indulge your fantasy. You know? It's my job to say, if you want to be a rapper, you're going to do the same things I did. You're going to sacrifice, work your butt off, have it not work for 10 years before you finally become an overnight success, you know? So it's not my job.
It's not my job.
So doubting is almost like a form of motivating and pushing.
Well, it did it
because
for
you're
me.
giving the option.
Yeah, all I know is how to train fighters, how I was trained.
Is that what you guys do with your kids?
My children? Oh man, I tell my kids all the time crazy stuff. But I encourage them too, you know what I mean? But I you know, we're firm with our children. I was actually soft, you know. Shayna really had encouraged me to toughen up some, but you know, I think that's important that children understand is I want you to have dreams, I want you to aspire. But with that said, you have to learn to work. You have to get to work on time. You have to learn respect. You have to pick what you want to do. Or not, but you can't complain that people aren't supporting you if you aren't actively chasing.
Yeah, true.
So we all heard you on the Breakfast Club last week, and funny enough, I was driving in the car with my kids, and the part where you talked about just public school versus private school, and how a lot of black parents think I'm gonna send my kids to private school because it's supposed to like help them get better in life and just be better people. And you were kind of pushing back on that around public school as well.
Yeah, well, the conversation was not about public versus private. It evolved into that. The conversation was about how do I send a confident black child into an environment with others who are not culturally like them and keep that confidence. Now, I happen to have went to black public schools. I went to black public schools that were named for black educators and emancipators in the black neighborhood. So my entire existence up into, I'd say I got to high school at 13 years old, because high school started in 8th grade for us. I'd never seen a white student. I had seen one white teacher. The white student was so poor shit, we felt sorry for him. You know, bought him Jordans and shit. You know, like, hey, beef it up. You over here with us, your swag can't be down. You know, but I say that to say, by the time that I got to college and met young men who were just getting around black people, who had come from these private institutions, and Morehouse ain't giving no scholarships, you paid to go, right? You could have did that in reverse and sent your child to school with black children named for black people from kindergarten through 8th grade, and then you could have sent a competent 13-year-old out in the competitive school environment where they already knew who Mansa Musa was. They already knew, you know, who Chaka Zulu was. They already knew that Kemet was black before it was called Egypt. They already knew that the transatlantic slave was not the beginning of their history, but the interruption of history. So you're putting out a confident, competent student that's ready to compete. Man, Envy mistook that as me saying, you know, down with private schools and people in the afford. I'm just saying that in my experience in the entertainment community, the people that I've seen send their children to private school still pay for college. If I send you to private school and I still pay for college, you have fucked up my investment. I say the same thing to my children. Michael is going to go to private school year after next, right? Year after next, she goes to private school. If I spend $100,000 over the next 4 years for her education and she does not scholarship into college, she has wasted my money. It's just that simple. That doesn't mean I'm not going to help her. Doesn't mean I don't love her.
That's
economics.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense. I never thought of it like that.
Right.
That you should, if I'm putting you, I'm making you more competitive, so it should put you in a higher echelon.
And those scholarships are rain down on you.
What I think the answer, though, is less about us pretending we place this focus on education, because if we did, our children would be scholarshiping in. And all our heroes went to black universities, right? When you start talking about Martins and W.B. Du Bois, Booker T's, those people went. The question becomes for me, when are we going to start making that investment in our own Montessori schools, our own charter schools, our own public schools, and when are we going to direct the talent, both academic and academically, into historically black colleges and universities and trade schools? That's simple. Either we choose to do that, or we continue being second-class citizens that are minority to majority, and then your school, and then your children get to that school, and then they're treated harshly, and then you got to deal with the psychosis of that. I'm just not willing to do that.
Now, I went to Spelman, your sister's school,
Yeah, I
right
went to
across
Morehouse,
right across the lane. And I came from a mixed school, melting pot, they called it. It was like a classic example of that in New Jersey. But my confidence didn't come until I got to Spelman for that reason. So we were, before we started taping, we were kind of talking about that. And it is interesting to imagine how much confidence your child would have if they were in an all-black pre-K, Montessori, elementary. And a good school, because you were saying they were, all black schools.
Yeah,
and
my
it
school
was
was National School Excellence at the time. Frederick Douglass was. The Carter
think about.
It is something to think
Because
about.
I got my confidence in college.
I found out today that in 1907, Tuskegee University graduated more millionaires. People went on to become millionaires at Harvard or Yale. If you don't start to learn your history from one of a victorship or one of a winner, you start to accept the fact that somehow I've always been a loser, or I'm always playing defense. That's not the truth, Both of the communities we come up from, Yamacraw Village, a housing project in Savannah, where she's from, her grandmother literally had a shot house and worked in that project till she bought her own house, and her next house, and the next house. I bought her grandmother's first house back for her birthday. She's now a home and landowner, So my thing is, we're supposed to be extending the dream that started over 100 years ago. And that's about black economics, black education, the taking care of one's black self in the larger black community. And if you're not doing that, I'm just not as open to a lot of the comments that you have and criticism of us, because you're not participating in bettering us.
And speaking of that participation, the episode on the show where you try to live locally, spend all your money with black-owned businesses, it shouldn't be, but it's practically impossible, especially if you try to stick to all the things you would normally do.
Like marijuana smoke?
Yeah, like smoking, yeah. I mean, seriously, I don't think I could come to work at Essence if
you
I
didn't smoke marijuana?
Well, no. That's another episode. If I didn't spend money on a non-black, I have to get on the ferry, I have to get on the train, I'd have to walk to Brooklyn.
Now there's certain loopholes.
You know what I'm
pay
saying?
taxes, you could claim public transit.
Oh, that's a loophole.
Yeah. I mean, if I was a lawyer, I'd argue
that. I gotta get to work too, so I can pay those taxes. But I do think it would be nice to dream a dream, right? In a world where that becomes easier, because more of us decide to be entrepreneurs. And when you were just saying, going back to starting our own daycares, elementary school, Montessori, we have to do that. Private schools, charter schools, absolutely. We have to do that. But it's hard out here. My dad's always like, you got to be an entrepreneur, and I'm like, I like that steady check. We get spoiled by the steady paycheck. Yeah, that's a hard mentality to switch to if it's not in your nature.
Yeah. I remember I came to you, I asked you to quit your job. I was I just didn't want you working for those white people anymore. She don't listen to me, so I know she's giving the white folks hell. And I'm just like, it ain't no sense in doing this. You could just take that beautiful mind and come work for us. And that's what, we had, $70,000 in the bank or something when we bought our first property.
Well, I didn't listen to you at first.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you to make that decision? Because, it's stability versus,
The first time the decision was made for me. So a corporation I was working for laid off about 1,500, and we were already talking about me becoming the person he needs me to be in our business. So, and I like to have cushion before I just up and quit a job. So in the process of saving, they sent out letters like, they're getting rid of us. And I was so sad, I was gonna move up and make my money. And he like, nah. Don't do that. That's good. We should be celebrating. You should leave that job.
Well, we're taught to get the job,
right? That's how we're taught.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment. We're taught to hold on to.
I never bought it.
In fact, up until the day his grandmother passed away, she thought I had a job. You can't play with these old people when I'm not working. That's why he's so hard on being the person to tell you, give you doubt and tell you that you can't do it, because his grandmother, boy, you don't have no job.
Hold a steady job.
You working. You gotta stop playing with that money and get your job. So I literally had to tell her every day. She'd call me in the morning. Shayna, you up? You going to work? Miss Betty, I'm going to work. I literally be laying in the bed. I have to jump up, put the water on. Like, she was not having it. So she gained a whole new respect for me to know that I was hanging out with him all night and going to work in the morning.
Yeah.
But
And don't be late, because to be early is to be on time.
don't be late.
To be on time is to
Look,
be
when
late.
she called me back, I had better been in that car on the way to work.
On the way to work.
To the job I didn't have. So first of all, going into the job, part of the reason I was laid off is because I could never be on time. So I'm
He's laughing a little
I
too
was waiting on
hard.
that part.
A little too hard.
I
know
was
they
you
look
gonna
at-
tell a lie, tell the truth. Like keeping the
devil.
trio, baby.
So I could never be on time. So clearly that's how I made the list of the people to let go of. And I'm not on time for my own business either. But I work hard when I do get there, and I make up for it by working overtime. But I got
you make
fired
your
from
own
most of my
hours.
jobs. Yeah, I got fired from most of my jobs. So I knew that I
God
being an
was trying to
entrepreneur
tell you
was
something.
a long time ago.
Make
and
your
I didn't
own.
listen. The job I got after they laid me off, he teased me the whole time, called me during the interview, like, why are you gonna go work for those white people? You don't need no job. We need to be doing our own. And I'm like, I was so nervous in the interview till they damn near just say, you know,
Please.
let's run it on.
Good
No
day.
thanks, ma'am.
Have a good day. Good day to you.
And he celebrated. So.
Good day, Miss Render.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. So then how do you two sort of make being business owners and a married couple work?
Makes it business with pleasure. That's not easy.
It's not easy, but we do it. In fact, it's easier to do because we do it with love. You know, sometimes you go through things and you want to stray away, and it's easier to do so if you're not emotionally connected to the person. So us being married made it easier to have businesses together. Because even if the businesses wasn't working, we knew our marriage was going to work, and we had to keep, focused on what was important: the marriage first, and then the business. So we've been successful at both. Thank God. Neither one is easy. But we made it.
How long have you two known each other? Y'all have I can see the glue, the bond is there. Y'all go back.
I feel like I've been knowing him all my life, honestly. About 16 years.
Not bad.
You've been married 16 years.
No.
Nah, we know.
How long we
known
married?
each other 16 years.
We were married. It was 13 years in November.
Come on, Black Love.
I thought it was 10.
Come through.
Yes.
But now it'll be
11,
13.
13.
Michael,
Did
It
you
was
guys
a
know
long night,
right away that
wedding
you would
night.
make a
I
great
actually married me
partnership?
the first 2 weeks.
Yeah?
Well, I first met her, I was popping. And we was in
thought he
Daytona.
was popping.
I was hot. I'm fire hot, baby.
You thought he
We
was
like a
popping.
weird.
Bless your heart.
And they, I was down at BET's like summer thing in Daytona. You know, black folks tearing up Daytona, man. We was having
Oh,
a
Daytona
ball.
Beach.
And her friends saw me and was like, "Oh, Killer Mike." They were fans of the record was out at the time called Actions on Outkast, coming out label. Shouts out to Big and Dre. So I went and all her friends, they the homegirls was cute and they was cool and whatnot, but I seen this one chick like at the end sitting down like not recognizing my G. And I was like,
Unbothered?
yeah, I was like,
So
what's up?
unbothered, girl. So
I was like, she
unbothered.
must be lame or blind. She don't see all this fly in front of her. So I went up to her plate and ate a shrimp off of it, and she decided I was just a pig, and she didn't want to talk to me. I was rude.
Girl, I
She
cussed
blessed
everything
me
out
out,
for
child.
everything I had in me.
You
Like,
did not get that phone number,
Yeah,
did you?
I ain't,
No.
nah.
did not. You
Not
stole
at
some
all.
shrimp?
But
No.
I saw her like, yeah,
As long as I
exactly.
had been waiting on my food, like,
Yeah,
I
already
didn't know at that time my wife was crazy. Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't understand that she had a thing with restaurants and eating her food hot, just nuts, child. We'll talk about it. But
So that was it.
I saw her a year later.
Oh.
A year later, I saw her at a private party at Big Boy's house, and a radio friend of hers. You know, radio guys try to keep pretty girls around. My wife and this guy were really good friends. Bo, man. What's Bo's legend?
Bo, I don't know, Bo Money. That's
Yeah,
what
Bo
it
Money. Bo Money's a great guy. He was an early supporter of mine. And he just had talked good about me to her. She had hated on me. He said, "No, you got to meet Killer Mike again. He's a nice guy." And at the party, she walks in with a girl I had been with before,
Oh,
See what I'm
That's you about to run up on strike
like
too.
the night before.
telling you about.
Yeah, and I was like,
Ooh,
oh.
this is juicy. Where's the tea?
My first thought was, oh my God, there's that beautiful girl from Florida. At first, I noticed like she had beautiful eyes, she had red hair, which I'm sucker reds, and she had. I was like, man, yo. And then like
Side note, he had me in his phone as Big Titty Girl. Like, really
great
nice.
titties, exactly what I had. And I saw like the girl I had just been with, just on some fun and no, I hadn't lied to the girl. No, we were just having fun at the club, and I was just like, oh, they're friends.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I have to lie now. So, So I went literally and ducked off in the corner, and for the whole party, I just looked like a church boy. I looked like a square. So she developed a different opinion.
So I thought that was good.
Yeah.
Because he was on his best
Yeah.
behavior.
And so she asked,
He
she
was
said,
acting. He was acting way back then.
she asked me, she says, this young lady says you know her, and I was like, what? Nah. I'm But it's only because I just wanted to get to know her. Like I finally admitted like a year or two ago, like
You kept it real.
Like 8, 9, 10 years.
yeah.
So how did he finally win you over?
Begged, baby. Because I knew I wanted to marry the first 2 weeks of her actually getting to know me.
I heard men always do. They always know.
No,
They
look,
know.
I actually within first, I had dated, when I found out what apartment she lived in, I had dated a girl in the back apartment. I went to that girl like, look, I'm not going to be able to see you anymore. Because there's this girl at the front of the apartment, and I think I'm in love. And she looked at me like, how long you know? I was like, a week, man. But I asked her to marry me 2 weeks in, and she looked at me, and she said, she looked in the mirror, I'll never forget, and she looked at me through there and said, what makes you think I want to marry you? It crushed me, it killed me. I mean, it hurt me. See, it hurt me to say it to this day. And then we spent the next 2-3 years just kind of dating each other, you know, being club buddies, and her breaking my heart.
Well, obviously your instincts are
I
right.
love it.
I love that's
it.
a good cute. That's a cute, me cute.
That's the truth.
What's your side? There's the his
So
side.
first of all,
her
I was
side.
telling the story. Did you notice that there was one girl that was to the party with us?
Yeah.
Right. So then there's a whole nother girl that lives in the apartment.
Right.
Did you catch that?
Yes.
That's 3
So
women.
he had a little roster at the time.
So he was, you know.
I was draft.
counting
I'm trying to win
quietly.
championship. Yeah, you got the draft. Everybody don't make
I
the
was
league.
counting quietly over here. But
He was just playing, you know, just distributing.
And that's all I was like, keep playing. You don't need to get serious.
I wanted to marry her. Yeah.
Well,
I do want to get
obviously-
serious, just quickly as we, finish. We are taping on Trayvon Martin's birthday. He would have
God
been
bless you,
24
brother.
today. And just Killer Mike, I don't know. I mean, I always look at you, I'm like, he has the answers. Give us the answers.
Lead the
What
people.
should the Black community do, Killer Mike? You know, just like, and thinking about how your father was a police officer, and then, but you're very vocal about.
My cousins are currently police officers.
Yeah?
My cousin on SWAT in Atlanta, and another cousin who's commander out of East Point.
Yeah.
I don't personally believe people who don't look like me should police me and be policing my communities. I don't really believe in people who live outside of the community policing those communities, period. So I'm not a big advocate, even if you're a black person. If you're a black person and you haven't grown up in circumstances like the policing, or you don't understand to get out your car, you shouldn't do it. Which is why one reason I tip my hat to Tommy Norman, who's up in North Little Rock in Arkansas. He's a policeman I helped bring the national. I talked about him on CNN on Brooke Baldwin's show. But there's a nobility in policing, teaching, and being a fireman. And if you don't honor that nobility, you should not be it. So I'm a firm believer in once a cop has one strike and it's violence or abusing the proletariat in any way, they should be gone. But in matters of Trayvon, he's the same age my oldest son is, and when I think about it, I get angry. I get angry. I get angry in particular at Zimmerman. I get angry at the courts and how they failed their parents. But I'm angry at society for keep acting like these things are just happen to pop up, or they're just once in a while. We know that it is legitimately easier to kill black people in this country, in particular black boys, since they're engaged by the police more. And at some point, as the proletariat, and not everyone, black people are going to have to make a firm stance that is more than just marching and hands up, and we're going to have to do something for real. Now, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's making sure police pensions can be attacked if they do that. I don't know if that leads to
We have to change laws.
Yeah, or we're going to have to punish the system. And I mean absolutely punish them. And how do you punish a system? Dick Gregory was a proponent of not spending money on Christmas. If our children are dying, we're going to keep our dollar out of the bigger economy, and the bigger economy is going to suffer. We're going to find out who the prosecutors are, and we're going to vote them out of office, and the judges, and we're going to make them suffer. You can use this system to make people suffer that have bring suffering to you. Because I fear what's going to happen if that doesn't happen, then what's going to happen is our people are going to become frustrated enough to become violent. And as a policeman, you have to think a lot of times when you're in the middle of an arrest, you're on the ground, you're back into the crowd. A lot of times it's as easy as slipping up right behind you and putting a bullet behind your ear. I have policemen in my families, and I don't want to see that happen. I wish to see policemen serve the community and the greater community like they should. So we're going to have to root out these bad apples, because if not, you're going to turn the public against the police in a way that's hyper-violent, in a way that nothing but bloodshed happens. And I don't want to see that.
It's not effective yet either. We have to find an effective means.
Well, the most effective means is in punishing your legislators. If you get hurt in a municipality or the policemen are not fair, you should be attacking your politicians. And I mean attacking is withdrawing your vote and increasing your boycott of something. There should be an economic response to these things, right? If you're not going to take to the streets and cause mass violence and riot and burn stuff down, you can quietly sit at home and not spend $1 in the local economy. And once you start to do that, you're going to start to see things change. You know, once you see votes coming up for who's going to be the next prosecutor, you can run. You can run people who are like-minded, like-minded with you. If a mayor, I just heard Cory Booker this morning when asked about Charlemagne, do you have an agenda for black people? He did a wonderful job of curbing that question. If you can't answer that question, you can't get my vote. You know, that's that simple. And we have to become that determined. Because if we're not that determined, you're going to wear, you're going to veer, you're going to allow an abusive boyfriend to come back. Because that's been our relationship with law enforcement.
Like an abusive lover?
Yeah, absolutely. With this country, period. And at some point, we're going to make a stand and be Tina Turner at the end of the movie. But we can't keep being Tina Turner at the beginning and the middle of the movie. You know, we cannot keep allowing this. So, you know, my thing is what I would like to see of us do it lawfully. But I'm telling America, if things don't start happening to the favor of black people in the working class, period, black or white, lawfully, you're going to eventually see violence in the streets. And I don't want to see that.
But okay, speaking to the frustrations, right? Because all of this is pent up frustration and energy for the oppression that we see and we face. I look at social media and the world and I see how divided we are. And you often speak about how we have to find a way to come together and do this together. Absolutely. But it's so hard to come together when we're not together. Everything we're doing is on social media. Everything we're doing, we're not face to face. We're not really talking, we're typing. Our fingers are doing all of the, it's all, and I'm always like, how do we do that now in a world where we're not even looking at each other? How do we come together in a world where it's so much easier to just throw hate at somebody's comment section? Throw hate at someone's retweet or whatever and not even make eye contact with people who are different than us in the streets and then hold on and harbor all that anger.
I say get out and meet people. Everyone should.
We're not doing that.
Yeah, but I can't help, like my thing. I've come to realize, my grandfather, I used to tell him all the time, he used to argue, you read the autobiography of Malcolm X, you think you're the next revolutionary. Like, Poppy, why aren't you doing this or why aren't you in an uproar? He just used to simply say to me, our people not ready. Because when you're ready, you're going to organize, you're going to do it, you're going to get it done. You know what I mean? And if you're not ready, that's fine. But you can't keep acting ready and not be ready. It's not good enough to be angry on Twitter, angry on IG. Pride is not something that happens in February. It's an actionable thing. You have to do it every single day. My wife hires contractors. She vets out 3 to 4 black contractors before she hires anyone. She tries her best to keep that dollar in our community. You have to be an active agent for change, or you're just bullshitting. And if you're bullshitting, that's fine. Because it's easy to be mad on Twitter. It's easy to be in a pep rally yelling for your team, and we want them to win, and then after the game, it don't much matter to you. Right. But if you're really on the ground level, if you're really like Amina Matthews, if you're really like Big U out in LA, if you're really about the Free Hoover Project, then it becomes something that consumes you. I've been an activist since I was 15 years old. I want to be an activist. I want to smoke weed, go to strip clubs, and kick it with my wife. But I'm compelled to do what's right because no one else will do it. Everyone else just on Twitter yelling at each other. My wife, I remember a few years ago, she was just like, we're not going to sit home on the holidays, buddy. We're going to do Jose's Feed the Homeless. I'm like, what you talking about? I did as a kid. She's like, nah, as a family, we going out there. It was enough of her to say, I appreciate this and do well, but she was like, we could give money, but we need to be present. And since then, it's something we've continued to do. So you got to be a doer and not just a talker or a typer. Because the boycotts didn't happen because people was at home writing about it in the newspaper. The boycotts happened because people walked to work.
And mailing letters to each other about it. It's true.
Oh my goodness, thank you. We can talk to you too,
forever. I was gonna say y'all should probably talk to her. She's far more interesting than me.
Are we done talking?
I hope not. I hope you're talking. I'm gonna be quiet.
Well, you have to come back, Shay, and give us we'll have the one-on-one with you and have a moment, ladies only.
Yeah, do that.
Think? That would be nice.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can then do hood rat shit with my ratchet friend.
You are officially invited back for the Kiki.
Okay. Mike, but I do love how you talk about the gangster in the community, because my mother was one of those people who used to always say to me, you got to have friends in high and low places.
Yeah.
You always got to have that one friend.
My mother sold cocaine.
No guy who knows a guy.
You know what I mean? Denise got caught buying 20 kilos of cocaine when I was 15 years old. She also was a florist that owned her own business and artist, so it's like, I want people to understand, on the black side, I met with a bank president 2 months ago, And he said, Michael, our community was stronger when not only working class and poor people took care of their finances, but when we also took care of each other in terms of the numbers man and the probation man. You're not going to get me to celebrate George John and get me to shame Rick Ross.
Wait, what is the numbers man? I'm sorry, is my black card?
The numbers, but before there was a state, before there was a state lotto where you could go play the number, your grandmother would have these dream books. You may have seen dream
and to tell you what means the interpretation.
Those people would then take a 3-sided number, and after the stock market fell, and I don't know how they took it from the stock market, they would get whatever today's number was out of that. So what it was the numbers man would have a network of 40, 50 people in the neighborhood who would book numbers. So you come to my grandmother, you would book a number with her, you would give her $1. You say, I'm gonna pay $1 straight on, say you played 3, 2, 1. I want $1 straight on 3, 2, 1. Give me another dollar box. That means however it falls. If you fall 1, 2, 3, you still get,
mix
you just get 250 instead of 500. So my grandmother and a bunch of her friends, they would do that. And policy with it, you'd have a number policy with the number man. If you hit, you got paid. If not, it just went into the circle. So
it was like the independent lottery for black folks?
Yeah, well, it was where the lottery got the idea from. And so your community was stronger when there was a numbers man or a liquors runner, because all these marches weren't funded by bourgeoisie black people. Right. Somebody had to fund these marches and rent these buses and get these people food. And oftentimes it was those people. Even if you look at the crack era, these young men became business people. These young men were some of the first people who started record labels and clothing stores and things of that nature and brought us here. So I'm just saying, in black people, man, even in Black History Month, celebrate all of you. The same way you celebrate white gangsters and Mexican gangsters and South American gangsters, celebrate your own gangsters, because they've actually brought something to your community. I knew Shawty Low when he was a drug dealer, because I was a drug dealer. We were from rival neighborhoods, but we had been friends. But that, if it had not been for him, you would not have seen the explosion of acts that came after him that now people call mumble rap. But you wouldn't have had D4L. You wouldn't have had the Lean With It, Rock With It. The Rockstar. But you never would have had those groups, because he took money and invested in a studio and let them record. You know what I mean? So he's to be celebrated and championed for that. I believe. If T.I. hadn't been a young man, shout happy related to Messiah's oldest son, who was a father trapping with his new child, if he wouldn't have got inspired to say, let me take these experiences and put them on music, you wouldn't have trap music, which is now the biggest music in the world. You know what I mean? So for me, I just find positivity in everything I've done, the good and the bad. And I think as a community, we should be trying to focus on how to go to Bumpy Johnson Steakhouse versus Peter Luger. I don't have a problem with Peter Luger, but that should be a Bumpy Johnson Steakhouse. There should be an option for me to go to get great meat. Black folk know how to cook meat. That's why barbecue restaurants don't know about the business, So I'm just saying that, like our friend who's Korean, Alice, and, we have other friends. We go to Koreatown and eat when we're in LA, right? We go to other places, go to black neighborhood too, but when we go there, I'm always inspired. Because in 1992, I remember when they were trying to burn Koreatown down. I remember those Koreans defending their side of town, and now when we go there, it's more beautiful than other places. We can do that. The Vietnamese community bounced back quicker in New Orleans than any other community, sleeping 9 people to a floor saying we don't need a TV yet. We can do that. But you're gonna have to become so focused, so angry at the way you've been treated that you become determined to succeed no matter what. If you're not willing to do that, then you just accept your slavery how you accept it. But for me, my wife and I have chosen, the path of independence, and that's where we're gonna be. That's where we're gonna go. I can't play second and shucking and jiving for nobody, any of that. So, it's a harder role we picked, but this is the role we're on together. I'm glad I have as a partner.
Love it. I love it. And we need all types of Black Love goals, y'all. We need to see all of this. Thank you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
we really
you for
appreciate it.
by.
I'm going to send her back by herself, too.
Yes. We will welcome her with open arms.
All right.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Bye,
Girl,
Mike.
don't play with me. I need to move it around, Brooklyn. You'll be the home of a pole.
Thank you, guys.